Coulter Thorne rode out before sunrise, the way men do when they own more land than they can see in a single day. Frost clung to the sagebrush, turning the wide valley into a silver sheet that shimmered under the pale morning light. His black stallion moved steady beneath him, breath rising in soft white clouds against the sharp December air. Coulter was not a man who let his thoughts wander. His life followed clear lines, numbers, boundaries, and plans. The Thorne Ranch was the strongest spread in the Northern Territory because he had built it that way. People in town called him lucky, but the men who worked beside him knew better. Luck had nothing to do with it. Discipline did. Every winter after the first hard freeze, Coulter rode the far edges of his land. He checked fence lines, watched for broken rails, washed out gullies, and tracks that did not belong. A ranch of this size did not survive on hope. It survived on attention. That morning felt no different from any other until he reached a narrow ridge overlooking a quiet cottonwood draw. That was when he saw the old cabin. Most people did not even know it was there. It sat low in the land, hidden behind twisted juniper and stone shaped by years of wind. It had been built long ago by a trapper who had either moved on or died. No one ever knew which. The roof sagged, the porch leaned, and the door barely hung on its hinges. Coulter had always planned to tear it down someday. Another task on a list that never seemed to shrink. But that morning something stopped him. Smoke, a thin, steady line rose from the stone chimney, straight and sure. Not the drifting smoke of children or drifters, but the kind made by someone who knew how to keep a fire alive. Someone was living there. Coulter guided his horse forward, moving slow. The closer he came, the more signs he saw. Fresh wood stacked neatly by the door, a patched window, a new latch carved into the frame. This was not neglect. This was care. He dismounted quietly, boots crunching over frost. He was not angry yet. Mostly he was curious. Whoever lived here was not hiding. They had made the place livable, even proud. Coulter raised his hand to knock, but the door opened before he could. A woman stood there, holding a lantern, a piece of firewood tucked under her arm. She looked straight at him, calm and steady, without fear or apology. "Morning," she said. Her voice was clear, like cold creek water. Coulter straightened. "Morning," he replied. "This is Thornland. I need to know who's living on it." "My name is Lydia Harrowell," she said. "I'm not here to cause trouble." Something stirred in him then. Interest, nothing more, but sharper than he expected. She did not look like trouble, yet she was clearly not weak. She stepped aside. He might as well come in out of the cold. Coulter hesitated. He had expected excuses or fear, not an invitation. Still, the cold cut deep, and curiosity won. He stepped inside. The cabin surprised him. The walls were old and gray, gaps stuffed with cloth and moss. The floor creaked, but the place was clean. A woven rug lay near the hearth. The small table stood level only because stones had been stacked under one leg. Herbs hung drying from the rafters. Everything had a reason for being there. "You fixed the roof," Coulter said. "Best I could," Lydia replied. "Winter's hard on leaky places. You hauled that timber yourself." "I did. You know this cabin is on my land." "I do," she said calmly. "I wasn't hiding it. I just used what was empty. Most people begged when caught." Some lied. Lydia didn't either. "How long do you plan to stay?" he asked. "Long enough to get back on my feet," she answered. "I don't want charity, just time." That answer stayed with him. Coulter left soon after, but he did not forget her. That night, sleep did not come easy, not from anger or worry, but because Lydia Harrowell did not fit into any problem he had faced before. She was not stealing, not helpless, not dishonest. She was capable, and capability deserved fairness. By morning, he had written an agreement on a single sheet of ledger paper. When he returned, Lydia was splitting wood, each swing clean and sure. She did not stop until she finished the log. "You came back," she said. "I said I would think on it," Coulter replied. "I'm done thinking." He offered her the paper. "You may stay through winter," he said. "In return, you work for the ranch. Fence checks, water surveys, remote tasks my crew can't reach. Lydia read every line carefully. One change, he said. Add a clause ending this after winter. No obligation. Coulter studied her, then nodded. He added the line. She signed her name steady and clear. He signed beneath it. That should have been the end of it, but a few days later in town, Coulter overheard a name that changed everything. Crozier, a land broker known for forged papers and stolen claims. A man who preyed on widows and the forgotten. Coulter felt the truth settle heavy in his chest. That evening he rode back to the cabin. Have you heard of Crozier? He asked. Lydia's hands tightened slightly. Yes, she said, I have. And in that moment, Coulter knew this was no simple arrangement. What Lydia was running from had finally caught up with them both, and he had no intention of letting it end there. Coulter did not press Lydia for answers that first evening. He had learned long ago that truth came best when it was given, not forced. He left the cabin before nightfall, riding back toward the main ranch house with a mind heavier than it had been in years. The name Crozier stayed with him like a stone in his boot. He had crossed paths with men like that before. Smooth voices, tidy papers, and a hunger for land that did not belong to them. They survived because no one with power ever bothered to stop them. Coulter slept little that night. Before dawn, he was already dressed, coffee untouched on the table, a small notebook tucked into his coat. He rode into Ash Hollow while the town was still quiet, snow dusting the rooftops and hitching posts. This was the hour when honest work began and dishonest dealings were easiest to find. The land recorder's office was his first stop. Samuel Darrington sat behind the counter, spectacles perched low, sorting papers by habit more than need. Morning, Coulter, Samuel said. You're early. I need to see the Blue Ridge transfers from 2 winters ago, Coulter replied. Samuel raised an eyebrow, but reached for the ledger. He trusted Coulter's reasons even when he did not know them. Coulter flipped through the pages with a practiced eye until he found it. A forfeit deed signed by Lydia Marion Harowell. The handwriting was wrong. Too round, too careless. Who filed this? Coulter asked. Crozier, Samuel said quietly. Said he was cleaning up disputed claims. Coulter closed the ledger. Did anyone verify the signature? Samuel sighed. You know how it goes. Paper speaks louder than people. That was enough. Coulter found Crozier near the livery stable later that morning. The man stood too straight, coat too clean, smile too sharp. He looked up and saw Coulter coming and tried to look relaxed. Well now, Crozier said. Didn't expect to see you down here. You filed a false deed, Coulter said simply. Crozier laughed, but it came out thin. That's a serious claim. So is forgery, Coulter replied. You'll void it today. And if I don't? Coulter stepped closer, his voice calm. Then I'll make sure every office in this territory knows your name. You won't sell a single inch of land again. Crow looked around. No one came to his aid. Power was a quiet thing and Coulter had it. By noon, the deed was voided. By sundown, Crozier was gone. Coulter did not ride straight back to the cabin. He stopped first at the lumber yard, then the general store. By the time he reached Lydia's place, the wagon behind him was heavy with supplies. Lydia stepped outside when she heard the wheels. She froze when she saw the load. What's all this? She asked. The start, Coulter said. That cabin won't last another winter. She folded her arms. I didn't ask for charity. And I didn't offer any, he replied. I offered work. And shelter that won't fall in on you. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. All right. The new cabin rose slowly, board by board, stone by stone. Lydia worked beside the hired men, measuring, lifting, learning. She did not complain. She did not rush. Coulter watched from a distance, noting how naturally she fit into the work, how the men respected her without being told to. Weeks passed. Snow fell steady and clean. The old cabin stood empty now, its purpose finished. The new one stood strong on the ridge, windows facing south, a solid hearth at its heart. One evening, as the last light faded, Lydia stood on the porch of her new home. Coulter approached quietly. "It's finished," he said. "It is," she replied, "and it's more than I thought I'd ever have again." Coulter nodded. "Your land in Blue Ridge is restored. It's yours if you want it." She shook her head slowly. "Not yet. I'm not done here." Coulter felt something shift then. Not ownership, not obligation. Respect. Below them, the Thorn Ranch stretched wide and quiet under the falling snow. For the first time in years, Coulter felt that something unexpected had taken root on his land. Something strong. And winter was far from over. Winter tightened its hold on the Thorn Ranch, but life did not slow. Snow lay deep in the draws and along the fence lines. Yet the work continued, steady and sure. Lydia Howell took to her role as if it had always been hers. She rode alone to distant corners of the property, checked markers others ignored, and returned with notes so clear that even Coulter's foreman began relying on her reports. She asked no praise and expected no easing of duty. What she wanted was simple, to earn her place. Coulter watched all of it without comment. He had built his life on measured decisions, not impulse. Still, something had changed. He found himself adjusting schedules, so he crossed paths with her more often, stopping by the new cabin under the excuse of inspecting work already done. They spoke easily, not of feelings, but of weather patterns, water flow, and the small choices that made survival possible. It was not romance. Not yet. It was trust. The test came late in February. A hard storm rolled in from the north, the kind that swallowed sound and turned daylight into a pale blur. One of the eastern fence lines failed under the weight of drifting snow, and a group of cattle broke through, wandering toward the frozen creek. Coulter sent 2 hands to recover them, but when night fell and they did not return, he knew something was wrong. He rode out himself, the wind biting hard. Halfway down the trail, he saw a familiar figure ahead. "Lydia, you shouldn't be out here alone," he called. "Neither should you," she shouted back. "The creek ice won't hold cattle weight. They'll panic if we rush them." She was right. Together they worked through the night, slow and patient, guiding the herd back inch by inch. When one of the hands appeared, injured but alive, Lydia helped bind his leg with calm efficiency. By the time dawn broke, all cattle were accounted for. Back at the ranch house, the injured man was tended, and the storm finally eased. Coulter stood near the stove, steam rising from his coat. Lydia stood across from him, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. "You didn't have to come," he said. "Yes, I did," she answered. "This is my work, too." Coulter nodded. "It is." Spring arrived quietly. Snow melted into streams. Grass pushed green through the soil. With it came letters from Blue Ridge confirming Lydia's restored ownership. Coulter handed them to her one evening. "You're free to go," he said. She read them, then folded them carefully. "I know." Silence stretched between them. "But I won't," she added. Tear met her eyes. "Why?" "Because this place isn't borrowed anymore," she said. "I earned it." He did not argue. He did not need to. That summer, Ash Hollow buzzed with talk. People noticed changes at the Thorn Ranch. Fences held stronger. Records ran cleaner. And there was a woman riding the far lines with the confidence of someone who belonged. Some whispered. Others wondered. Coulter ignored it all. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he found Lydia standing on the ridge near her cabin, watching the land stretch out below. "You ever think about staying for good?" he asked. She smiled. Small but real. "I already am." Coulter took a breath, deeper than usual. "Then we should make it official. Not as employer and worker." She turned to him fully now. "As partners," he said, "in land, in life, equal." Lydia studied him the way she studied contracts and weather signs. Then she held out her hand. "All right, Coulterthorne," she said on equal terms. He took her hand, firm and certain. That fall, they married quietly. No crowd, no speeches, just two people who had built something solid, choosing to build more. The old cabin was torn down before winter. In its place, grass grew thick and green, and on the ridge above the meadow, a light burned every night, steady and warm, seen for miles across the land that now truly belonged to them both.